because I see now the minister's visit is also in the council chamber
What time is that?
at 10.
Okay, let's try and finish. by
Yeah.
10.
So I see it now on the program that it's Minister Gugubela. Gugubele, Mondli, Gugube. I can't pronounce it. Sorry. But let's start with the meeting. Welcome, morning, everyone. Welcome to our finance section 80. Where is the finance team?
Manager, Avita is here. Who's the other team?
I don't see the finance team, Avita, please get the team. Let me move. Members present. Now MM is sorting out the members that must come.
Sort out the minister. The minister is coming for now.
The members present is Councillor Sabach, Councillor Chokolo, Councillor Kumulwana, myself, and Councillor Campbell. Members absent with leave, it's none. Members absent without leave, none. I haven't received any communication from Councillor Charlie or Councillor Lowe. Other councillors present, here's none. Officials present,
Dr. Martin is still not well. Mr. Lindile Petuna is acting. So I'm expecting him to be here. I've not received anything from other directors. They're expected to be here, but as you have said, Chairperson, at 10 o'clock, I will be expected also to be part of the briefing of the Deputy Minister of Communications and Digital Technologies.
Thank you, Okay, I see Director Technical is here. I see Director Corporate is here. So, Director Community Service and Planning is not here.
Sorry, I forgot. Mrs. Tunya has taken a family responsibility leave. I didn't get it who's acting, but I will check it now. I'll check it now, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell.
Chair, if I look at the agenda, I really don't think it's that important that they have to be here. I think we can proceed with the. I assume Ms. Jagaisor is acting CFO, or not? Oh, okay, sorry. No, that's, then I suppose we need the CFO to be here. But.
Thank you. Not now, let's move with the agenda. Members of the Audit Committee present? None. Members of the public present? None. Point number 3, noting of the provision of Code of Conduct for Councillors. Noted. Number 4, presentations is none. 5, confirmation of the minutes. 5.1, minutes of the previous meeting, Thursday, the 24th April 2025. Councillor Campbell. Councillor Chokolo.
Page 8. H, that the municipal manager investigate the issues around T9 and submit it to the next Finance and Governance Committee meeting. I don't remember now what T9 was, but I don't see any report here on that unless it's on an agenda I'm not aware of. So I'm just referring you to that. I'm not saying the minutes are incorrect. I'm just mentioning that.
Yes, no, I will converse with the CFO, Councillor Campbell, and ensure that in the next report, in the next section 8, we submit that report.
Thank you. Yeah, I remember it's the tender everybody was talking about. Thank you, So, committee members can, Councillor Chokolo.
No, Chair, I can propose Councillor Campbell has raised what I wanted to raise, so we can move with the minutes.
Okay, thank you. Let's move with the minutes. Everybody, can we move? Item 6, matter submitted by the municipal manager 6.1, the year end and deadline.
Yes, CFO will assist us on those.
Okay, CFO. Can we note it? Yes. Or you want to say?
There's enough information.
The committee members say there's enough information for them to understand, so they will note the report. Okay, 6.2, the monthly budget statement. I think committee members? Noted. Noted. Everybody notes the report. Item 6.3, report on fruitless and wasteful expenditure for July 2024 and May 2025.
I assume this will go to impact. I think impact should deal with it.
Committee members? Are we all in agreement?
Just sorry, our computers are slow. I just want to try and check the recommendations. Are they talking to what Councillor Campbell is talking? I don't have a problem with the recommendations. Thanks.
Yeah, the recommendation is talking about impact. Thank you. Item 6.4, monthly budget statement, May 2025. Councillor Campbell.
The supply chain report, are we going to get that at the next meeting? Thanks.
Councillor Chokolo.
Yes. Thank you, Chair. Just a confirmation, Chair. You'd remember in the April budget statement, the adjustment budget that was done in February was not incorporated. But it looks like it is incorporated, just a confirmation of that, because I see it's only the adjustments that we did in April that is not incorporated in this one. Am I correct, Chair?
CFO.
Thanks, Councillor. Yeah, if you look at the report, we are still hard busy, even as yesterday, to finalize those kind of strings, but they are included now in the current, so they will reflect in the next section 71. But we have highlighted in the report to say that those have been excluded because of we're just finalizing it still. Yeah, thanks.
Councillor Chokolo.
Yes. Chair, my other one is on the investments. I see the CFO is trying to grow our investments. I just want to understand as to how he determines how much amount he needs to put across to investments from our cash, because I see the movement this month was 272,548,000. And if you look at between March and April, the amount was bigger. So I would like to just to understand as to how the CFO determines as to how much he puts over to investments.
CFO.
Thanks, Councillor. How we do it is that we ring fence. So it means as a trench comes in, we put that trench away if it relates to a conditional grant. For instance, if it's the MIC grant, they put in this month, I'm just making an example, right? They put in 5 million. We'll take the 5 million and invest it. And such time that MIC is spending, then we'll withdraw it, because it's 48-hour investments, for particularly the conditional grants ones. So immediately when we know that you have spent so much, the tranche is for 3 months. So we'll know in 3 months, in 1 month, if you have spent, we'll withdraw the 1 month's worth of expenditure, and then we'll pay the service providers. That's how we do it. Thanks.
Councillor Chokolo.
Chair, you can't see me, I'm here.
No, Chair. So if I get the CFO, there's actually no criteria, but it depends at the time how much of the grants you received, or how then you decide at the time. Okay, this is what. But there's no actual criteria that you use as to how much you put across, you put over.
Look, there is a criteria. We have got a process in place under the investment. We have got our policies how to invest. But what I'm saying is, in terms of trying to first get to a point where we are financially stable, where we can cover all our debts and all our ratios are covered, we cannot just implement the policy. What we are just doing is to make sure that we stick into the rules that are there in terms of having the funds available for whatever was given to us in terms of conditional grants, and if there's any additional funds. But we are not at that level where we can say that our revenues of such a portion that we can say that we have got excess funds to just invest. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Chair. There is what is called the municipal investment regulations. The municipal investment regulations, they guide you, but also there's the issue of cash management. So how much cash do you have? When are you going to need it? And prudentially, you invest your money so that it can generate some profit, so that by the time you spend it, at least you have some profit, because CFO is exactly for that. That's why you will have a chief financial officer, is that he must be able to grow cash, on a given basis. And that is working very good, Chairperson. That's why we've been able to have our heads above water, is through a prudential way of managing your cash. Yeah. We are struggling, but it has stabilized. It has stabilized us and ensured that at least, even when you look at our ratios, that improvement is caused by that. Yeah. In fact, we are very strict now in terms of investment, Chairperson, even building reserves, to ensure that we have some reserves that we build.
Councillor Saba.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to be speaking on my pet topic, debtors. I note that our debtors book has increased, and I see that in the report it has been broken down per ward in terms of outstanding debt. Now, it's clear in terms of the report that that breakdown per ward includes the different organs, different in terms of residential organs of state and business. I note in Ward 10, the amount outstanding is at 109 million, which is exceptionally high. So I'm assuming that's because of the large debt that's outstanding with regard to the Grey Elephant investments. So I note that there's been no improvement there, which is obviously very concerning on the back of the fact that we did try and implement the credit control measures to recover monies from there. So if, without compromising anything, is it possible to get an update in terms of the current situation there? The other thing is also in terms of the staff debtors. I noticed that there is 70 or almost 80% of staff debtors at 1.4 million sitting in 90 days and over. I recall that we did have an item that came to council where we approved a write-off with regard to loans that were made or bursary funding. Has that not been processed? So is that net of that? Could we just get an explanation there? And then if I look at the councillors' debtors analysis, I noticed that there are a number of amounts that are sitting in 90 days and over, particularly sanitation, which is 3,368, and then refuse of 3,356, but then it says other in a credit of 4,687. I know it's not a lot of money, but in terms of that, just an explanation there. And are we addressing the outstanding balances with regard to councillors? Because we all know that if your account is in arrears of more than 90 days, it's a breach of the Code of Conduct of Councillors. So just an update there. And then if I move into expenditure, capital expenditure per directorate, and I look at the breakdown table, it indicates that the corporate services have actual expenditure and commitments indicates only 11% commitment and spend. Financial services at 82%. Planning is at 0%. Integrated human settlements is at 119%, so it's overspent by 553. How did that come to be? Community services only spend and commitment at 52%, I'm rounding up. Electrical services, 21.3% commitment and spend, and technical services, 71%. So overall, total spend and commitment is at 50, I think it says 59.5. My eyes are not, it's very small. So I'm a little bit concerned with regard to our spend, being that we're literally a month off, because this is the statement at the end of May. So, and particularly around the departments of electrical and technical, and then community services, where is, we know that where our service delivery is and where we're having the huge issues with regard to service delivery failure. So could I just have an explanation around the actual spend and commitments as at that date and why we're so underspent in those areas? Yeah, I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sabah. Yeah, that was a lot of questions now. Okay, CFO, can you respond?
Thanks, Councillor, for your questions. I think that you are right. I have explained previously in terms of why it shows an increase, but I think it should probably show a decrease in the next time around. We are dealing with the issue of the grey elephant. We have highlighted it. So I think there is progress. We should be able to report progress in the next section 80. In terms of staff data, we've also, well, we first start with councillors. The councillor data that was there, as we know, there was only probably 2 councillors. I can maybe talk about them because they are no longer here. The councillors that was in dead was 2, they are no longer in the municipality. So those is the ones that we have flagged previously. Some of the councillor that is currently here, dates are mostly up to date. In terms of the staff data, we are engaging staff. I'm engaging them because you remember we also had a lot of discussions around staff data. So say, can you not take their overtime? Can you not take their? There's a lot of even other committees raising it. But I'm engaging them to be able to try to work out on a plan. I know it's not in line with the code of conduct, but we are trying to work out a plan to be able to assist them so that it doesn't get unnecessary financial hardships. We have been meeting with them, and I think you'll see the debt reducing also in the next time frame, because we're engaging them to be able to deduct those monies from them and explaining to them the implication of not allowing us to deduct those things, because we need to talk to them. We cannot just deduct from them. That is in relation to the staff data. The capital expenditures, you are right, Councillor Sabah, we are underspending. And it's a serious concern, and the MMF address also those things with some few interventions that we're engaging with the user departments to be able to make sure that we increase spending. But there is currently a challenge in terms of us potentially losing on rollovers and those kind of things because we have not spent adequately. But I think we are currently on a plan. We'll only be able to report whether the plan works in the next section 80 when we see the assessment for this next 2 weeks that is coming. Thanks.
Before that, no, I think the other issue that we are dealing with, honourable councillors, there's been a very bad culture here of no consequence management. You know, this municipality is paying managers huge sums of money. But it is not getting the value for money. It's not getting the value for money. How, you know, when you sit and you get the reports, INEP, MIG, and then you ask a question, what am I paying this manager for if the expenditure is at that particular level? So it's a matter that we are trying to deal with quite decisively, because if council pays, council must get the value for money. That's as simple as that. It's not a complicated, it's a common sense issue. But that has been the culture, and it's people not meeting deadlines and, you know, not caring about not meeting deadlines and everything. It's something that we have got exactly into it now. We're holding the bull by its horns. Because it's a matter that matters. The second issue, Councillor Sabah, it's councillors and officials. It's whether they are paying what is due to them. It's whether the information is correct. Water, electricity, where you stay as a councillor. Are you paying for services to the municipality? Because you are not indigent. Councillors are not indigent. I'm very worried about that, because I sense that as I am getting that councillors may be getting away, some councillors may be getting away with murder. Being councillors, wanting other people to pay, but they are not paying. I'm very worried, because it worries me. I've been asking this question very often. Where you stay, are you paying for water? Are you paying for services? Are you paying for that? Because if it is discovered, it becomes a very big issue. So it's some of the issue, and that must be declared in the annual report. So I would really urge councillors. That's why yesterday I said I spoke about the issue of that declaration, because it goes wider than that. We must be able to be honest, because once you take the oath of office to say I will abide by the laws and the rules and all that, you are then saying you will be able to be honest to do that. I'm very, 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 very worried, Chairperson. I must be honest, because we might not be performing our duty if we are not able even to interrogate and then say, are we really paying for these services that we're expecting other residents and businesses to pay for? Lastly, we have been very hard, Chairperson, but I must express my disappointment, Chair. I want to record it here. It's bad for councillors to want to intervene when we deal with particular businesses. It's interference, Chair. It's a breach of the code of conduct, where you instruct us not to do certain things, Chairperson. It's very bad. It's very bad, Chairperson. It's very bad, and unfortunately, such instruction cannot be allowed. Because once you interfere with my work and the Chief Financial Officer, I've got to report you. I've got to write to the Speaker. I've got to advise the Minister. So my plea is one, allow us to do our work. If we have got to collect debt, allow us to collect it. Don't interfere, don't issue illegal instruction, more especially when it comes to particular business people around town, regardless of whatever. Because once you do that, then it means that I must take you up, I must take you head on and take that matter up, because you are interfering with the work that I'm given by the law. And that is becoming rife, Chair, and I must put it, we are not going to tolerate it. Allow us to do our work as officials of the municipality, because we are expected to do that. Then we come to Section 80 to give a report. Because we are going to include your names now. We are going to say, yes, we are going to include your names. We are going to say, you wrote an email, you gave this particular instruction on this particular service provider. And what will that be when that thing happens? Allow us to do our work without interference, without prejudice, without favor. That would be my request, Chairperson, because we are encountering problems when an instruction, and it is done in writing, which is suicidal. Because when you put it in writing, it's suicidal, Chairperson, because you are now saying there is evidence that you are now interfering in the administration of the municipality. Actually, you are like a person signing his or her death warrant.
Councillor Saba.
Thank you. Yes, I thank you for your response there, and that's where I wanted to then proceed to. My concern is that in these various departments where we're having service delivery failures, particularly around refuse, our water pipe bursts, and our water outages, roads, infrastructure, etc., it's quite concerning that we're not having the spend in those areas, and that's where I wanted to go to. If those spends are not happening, is it because the departments are not submitting the paperwork so payments can be made on time? But then that would mean that we've already made the commitment, so I'm assuming not. So there is something's amiss in those departments, and I know that Director Veso is new in the chair and everything, and I've said it before, and no disrespect to him when I make the statement. He's a man of small stature, but I think he's exceptionally strong, and I think he will be able to get this department back on track. But I do agree with you, that consequence management is something that is required. There are definitely people in these departments that are not doing their job. There is no supervision over contracts that are being awarded in terms of work that's being performed. And I'm pleased to hear, that you've taken the stance and the approach that you have. So thank you very much for that.
Councillor Campbell and Councillor Chokolo.
Yes, Chair, through you to the a few things. We need to look at our policies, that if we're talking, you're mentioning councillors, and it seems like you don't know. I can't quite understand whether you don't know whether they're paying or whether they're not paying. If they're getting accounts and the accounts are in arrears, we should, we will have to look at our policies. If they don't make provision for it, we must make provision for it that the municipality can deduct money owing to it by councillors and officials before people get paid. Surely it is within our power to ensure that accounts do not build up. It's different if some councillor gets a judgment against them because of an accident for R1 million. That's obviously not possible. But I'm talking about municipal services. If there are instances where you are wondering whether councillors are paying but using services, that means they must be bypassing something, then I would imagine the administration should go and do an audit and go and check so it can be dealt with. So surely all of that is within the realm of the administration. Then consequence management, yes, you're talking about that, but yes, we would hope there is going to be consequence management, because obviously councillors can only get involved in consequence management with the senior management. The rest of it is within within your authority, the other thing is, if councillors are giving you illegal instructions in writing, the way to deal with it is to write to the Speaker and provide that information to the Speaker. I don't think this is, with respect, the right forum. I think the way to go about it is in terms of the Structures Act, breach of code of conduct, is a complaint has to be laid to the Speaker, who will then look into that. Thank you.
Councillor Chokolo.
Yes, no, thank you very much, Chair. While we're dealing with the spending of these departments, especially the service delivery departments, infrastructure and community services, I think it is also important, CFO, through you, Chairperson, that I know in our committee, you've been explaining it, I don't know how many times, as to how you pay service providers. And I'm glad Councillor Charlie walked in before I asked you to please explain, because I was very disturbed when I was listening to the infrastructure section 80. I was listening on YouTube, I couldn't attend. But I was very disturbed when I found out that councillors still doesn't understand as to why finance at times is not paying. And I think you've stressed it a lot of times as to why you will not pay and how long you take paying. And in that meeting, Chairperson, it came out as if the finance department doesn't want to pay service providers. And I know, as a councillor here, that the CFO has been explaining it a lot of times. So I wanted to ask, Chair, that the CFO maybe tries and explain that again as to the process, as to how and why at times he's not paying, and when he refuses to pay some certain service providers, because it looks like there's still some confusion as to what's happening there. Thank you, Chairperson.
No, it's not true. It's not true. Finance pays. Finance pays. And finance pays within the 30-day period. But the problem are the user departments, who are allowing service providers to work without purchase orders. They are allowing service providers to work without purchase orders. Now, when a payment certificate comes, there must be a purchase order first. So if a payment order goes to finance, and the question is, do you have a budget? Do you have a purchase order? You find that there is no purchase order. And the biggest culprit there is the infrastructure and human settlements. The biggest culprits in that particular issue. Now, CFO can't just pay. There has to be processes that we are putting in place. So I want to clarify that, because a lot of lie has been going around to say finance, if there is a purchase order, there is a budget confirmation, and that there will be no problem. The departments are allowing service providers to work without purchase orders. And we have been very clear, Chair. If there is no purchase order, we are not going to pay. Because CFO has a responsibility to ensure that there is financial management. The Act is quite clear, and we have instructed Mr. Verso quite strictly. Mr. Verso, take action against your managers. Take action against your managers that are allowing service providers. Because if it's an emergency, Councillor Jogol, the following morning or the following working day, you come back and then you put the necessary. We have allowed for that. But we are receiving invoices as far as 6, 7 months back. You see? 7 months back without anything. Now, how do you pay in that particular situation? That's why we're actually going to be charging people. Because now you are putting the municipality not only to disrepute, but also you are putting the municipality into a financial risk. That is the problem. But I don't want to say to answer it because I know. If anything is clean, that payment will be honored without any delay. They even pay within a day, Chairperson, within a day, because for conditional grants, the funds are ring-fenced. There is money available for that.
Thank you. Thank you, Ma'am. Councillor Sabah, I want to take a break because the minister is here.
Yeah.
So I want to take a break quickly.
For how many minutes?
And then we will come back, 30-minute break, and then we will come back to the meeting.
At 10:30.
Let's come back at 10:30. Yes, yes. Thank you. So we are still on the monthly budget statement report 86. Councillor Sabah.
Thank you, Chair. I'm moving to item 3.3.13, capital expenditure per funding. It indicates here that our funding, and this seems to be, we're dealing with the report at the 31st of May. So I'm assuming this is for 11 months. So I'm a little bit concerned with regard to the funding, with regard to funding per source. Our national government grant, we indicate our actual expenditure and commitments is at 69.4%. Provincial grant is at 32.7%. Our borrowings, it's at 78%. And internally generated funds, 47.1%, with a total of 59.4% spend, and we've got 1 month to go. It concerns me that we have grant funding from national and provincial, but yet we haven't spent the money, and I'd just like to understand why with 1 month to go in this financial year. Some explanation there. Thank you.
Oh, are you going to respond?
Director, should I give it over to you? Thanks.
Sure. Thanks, Chair, if I may.
Peter?
Chair, yes, both tables that Councillor Sabah has referred to, section 3312 and 3313, one refers to the overall capex per directorate. The other one is the 3.3.13 is the source of the funding. In short, Chair, there was an item that served at the Section 80 committee last week regarding the grant funding expenditure, and that's the grants that refer to Section 3313, and you would have noticed that there were comments there. Predominantly INEP, there's underspending there, and the bulk of the electricity in the table above on 3312. The underspending there for electricity is mainly due to the INEP grant, where there's severe underspending. There's some legacy and history to it. The long and short of it, procurement didn't start on time, and by the time it started, the procurement couldn't be concluded. Now, there's various reasons, of which reports are already being generated currently as we speak, that will be submitted to the MM today. That's on INEP, that impacted the electricity. On the underspending in terms of the technical services in general, most of it is also made up out of grant funding. For one, it's MIG, and there again, procurement started very late, so much so that some of those construction activities must still serve at BAC, which means there will also be significant underspending there. Again, there's the same report that referred to grant expenditure. It's being compiled and will be presented to the MM later today. An updated version of grant spending will in any case also serve at the next technical or infrastructure section 80. So in a nutshell, Chair, most of the reasons for underspending on capital at this stage can be attributed to underspending on grant funding. And the reason for that is projects simply started late, and at this stage, the appointment of contractors is still pending as well. There is a view that we anticipate to apply for grant funding to salvage some of these projects that were funded through external sources, i.e. National grants. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Lau, you want to say something?
Greetings, Chairperson. Thanks, man, for allowing me to say something. Chairperson, mine is I hear what the director said of around the unspending. We can only deal with projects and service deliveries when the relevant departments and that are dealing with these things sit, the BEC sit, the BIC sit and deal with it. Then we can deal with this, but I don't want to go there. I just want to come to these, to the depths. I see there's an increase of 3.3 million rand, and I see the organs of states and businesses are owning 40% of these. If we can only collect about 10% or 5% of this amount of money, then we can, at least as municipality, we can get out of where we are. But I don't know if there's really a willingness for us to collect this money, because it's easy for us as the municipality. And when I said as a municipality, I included myself. For us, businesses that we are dealing with, because I can see now it's 40% that the organs of states and the businesses own this municipality. Can we only, if we can only get 10% of that money from them, at least then we can move out of where we are, Chairperson. This is my stake, that I think we have to work very hard around the clock to get these monies from these organs of states and businesses. And what processes are we following to get this money from the organs of states and businesses? Thanks.
Councillor Zapago, Councillor Suzokolo.
No,
I'll have a follow-up if I may. I hear what the Director Infrastructure is saying, and my concern is if we haven't spent the grant funding that we've got in this financial year, surely it puts us at risk in terms of actually getting grant funding into the next financial year. Because how do we explain and be able to motivate further grant funding into the next financial year when we haven't spent the grant funding that's been made available in this financial year? Is there not going to be some kind of consequence which is going to negatively affect us in terms of applications for future grant funding?
Chair, if I can just add on that, because I wanted to raise that exactly. Added to that, Chair, I also understand that the department is also putting up a proposal for what the MM called here, was it BFI funding? Now, all of these problems that the director has just mentioned and all of what we see in the report, is that now not going to have an impact on that grant? And I want maybe the director also to be really realistic about it. Are we going to be ready to have a proposal ready or even be considered in the next 2 or 3 years? Or do we really still need to work on this? Because I do think it will have an impact. Because, I mean, if you can't spend $1 million, but you actually want $1 billion, how are you going to motivate that? So I just wanted to add on that, Chair.
CFO?
thanks, Chair and colleagues. Look, it will definitely have an impact on us. And currently, our new year 2025-26 budget have already been gazetted, so they can do nothing about that. But in terms of getting a rollover, because you must remember that money is never spent, they will take it away if you don't get a rollover. So that is the current risk that we are faced with in this small portion that is left. I'm just raising it. If we cannot have a good motivation, they might be able to take it away. But we are working on a plan and a motivation to be able to ask for the rollover. So that is what the director was highlighting in terms of the process that they are doing, to be able to have good motivation to be able to request a rollover. But it's not guaranteed, as I'm saying. So that's the risk that you are correct in saying. In terms of the BFI, the director will also talk to it. It's a other project. It's a bigger project than testing because it entails transactional advisors and all those kind of people to be able to make sure that they introduce the capacity that is required. But with our capacity as currently, we will not be able to do even that projects. So as we are saying, we are addressing capacity issues also, and we are using now the transactional advisors and all those people to be able to capacitate the application and the execution of that BFI project, because we need a BFI project to be able to address those delivery issues here. Otherwise, with this 30 million, 50 million, 60 million that we are getting, we are not going to do nothing here. So I just wanted to raise it here, but the director can just add on it.
Any committee members, anyone wants to have input? No one?
Chairperson, you recognize me?
Oh, you saw your hand up, Councillor Law.
Yes, Chairperson, I just want us to go to this column with the CFO. What is the page now? page 104. Page 104. I can see there's about 90 days, 60 days, 30 days. And I can see you have even break it down to the different wards, if I'm correctly. And I can see here what 9 or 10, it is, when you look into the 90 days, you can see it really increased there. So mine is that if we can deal with what 9 or 10, to try to get these funds from, and I know most of that is those businesses. Then at least the municipality we can be sorted out as a municipality. So my question is that what are we doing around really around the businesses? So because people always talk about service delivering, but if I look into here, the money that has been owed to the nice municipality, it is really that we really have to deal with it thoroughly so we can get this money so we can move forward as a municipality and bring service to our people. But what is our really stand? Are we taking a hard stand or we are still lenient to deal with this outstanding money that is been owned by the municipality? Because I know in the poor areas we are having a very hard stance around it. But what are we doing in town where these businesses are operating from?
Councillor Saba.
Chair, I just want to address what Councillor Lowe has just spoken about. He indicates that Ward 9 and 10 owe the most amount of money sitting in the 90 days. But if you look at it from a ratio perspective, and I'm just going to take one ward, for instance, Ward 7. The current amount billed in Ward 7 is 1,600,000, yet the amount sitting in 90 days is 38 million, which means that a large amount of Ward 7 has not paid over an extended period of time. Now, that for me is a big concern. The same if I were to look at Ward 6. 1,296,000 is billed in the current, but yet owing is 18, it's almost 19 million, which again shows that a large amount of money over an extended period of time has not been paid in these wards. Ward 1 and Ward 2, the same thing. It's 4 million in each billed in the current period, but yet 22 million each is outstanding for an extended period of time. So I think it's not so much you focusing on just the wards that owe the most amount of money, because it needs to be addressed in terms of the extended debt that is outstanding over periods of time across wards. So this is a very interesting table that has been produced here, and I think that it was something that I'd asked for some time ago. And I want to really thank the CFO for including this as a report, and it's something I'm going to now dig a little bit deeper into so that when we have the follow-up in terms of the next month, I'll address it more fully because some more information will then come to light. So I'm really thankful that this particular table has been included in the budget statement, but I want to just move to something that is troubling me, and it's possible that maybe I don't quite get a full understanding, and I would like some clarity with regard to the question I want to ask. I just want to go to the table. And the table is with regard to our revenue that we have in terms of our amounts. Let me just find it. Sorry. I'll tell you now what table I'm on. It'll be the table that is now under paragraph, it's a financial performance overview, 3.2. And then it says 2.2.5. Numbering's a bit out there, but anyway. It indicates here that we have a total budget in terms of revenue for the financial year, 1,278 million, and yet our year-to-date actual is 1,156 million. So let's round it up. So that's based on page 96. But if I move to the table that gives us our collection rates, and it talks about revenue billed, I'm getting a bit, it doesn't quite tie in. So we're talking about a figure of 1,156 15 million, I think it was. But now if I go to that table, it shows me, sorry, I just want to find it. It indicates, here we go. It's on page 106. It says debtors collection rate 92.52%. I'm really struggling to understand how our collection rate is sitting so high, but yet our debtors book continues to increase, number one. Number two is in the table here, it indicates billed revenue, 758 million. But yet in our financial overview, which we had further up, it indicated that the revenue, total revenue there was 1.1 billion, 100 and something. So there's a difference there of close to 400 million. Am I misreading this or what? Because I would have expected the billed revenue to be tied into the budgeted revenue that we're reporting on for the same period. So just an understanding there, what does this table mean? Because it's not making sense to me. So if I could just have clarity there. Thank you. Am I misunderstanding it or not? Thank you.
You are not misunderstanding. Oh, should I come in, Chair? Sorry, my apologies. You are not misunderstanding it, Councillor Bahma. Maybe let me first answer Councillor Lowe, then I come to you so I don't forget Councillor Lowe's question. Councillor Lowe, I think the analysis why we brought in that table is exactly how Councillor Sabah have explained it. Because every time I explain it and people seem to not understand it. The issue what we want to show is to say that in relation to each ward, how much each ward and what is the fluctuation and how much who's paying and who's not paying. That is the purpose why we've brought it up so that it can clarify the issue. I think Councillor Sabah have explained to it, you should look at it in terms of the amount billed versus the amount outstanding, and then you'll be able to understand the ratio, who's paying frequently and who's not paying frequently. So that is the reason there. Like we exactly explained to it, the bill for businesses per month is about 16 million. And if you have got 80 million outstanding, I'm just making roughly, I'm not saying, you will find that it's only 4 months outstanding or 3 months. So that is the rationale behind such an analysis. But it's not so that we need to go deeper if I have to give you individually, but I'm just raising it why we wanted to flag it. In terms of Councillor Sabah's questions, the 1.12 billion is we have built, meaning that our budget is 1.278. We have built 1.153, which is about 90-something%. So it means that is what we've budgeted for and what we've built. It's not cash, it's nothing to do with those things. It's just accounting. You've budgeted to get this income, you have built so far this income. So it means we are on track. What I mean on track, it means if you take 100% divided by 12 for the 12 months, you will come, there's a month left. For the month left, we've got about 8 to 9% left. So that is, they will come to the same figure almost. So it means we've collected almost all our revenue that we have budgeted for. That is what the first table is showing you. The issue around the collection rate is complicated, as I've always explained it, how it works. I said if you treasury norm is 95% that they want. I'll always give this and I'll give it again. 95% of what they want in terms of the norm. If you collect 95%, it already tells you that you're going to have a 5% deficit. So it means already your data is going to increase by 5%. I'm just giving you a pure, if you just use the normal annual one. But it's not so easy as I'm telling you now, because the formula is different in terms of calculating the 95%. The 95% include your debtors. So it means if you've got a data at the beginning of the year of 500 million, you must add the debtors, and then you must add the billing, and then you subtract the payments, and then you subtract the bad debts, and then you come to a figure of a collection rate. So there's a formula that you use there. Hence, you will see the formula. If council have written off indigent accounts, if you bring them in also there, it reduces the collection rate. So I'm just raising it so that we understand how these calculations work in terms of getting to your collection rate. But in terms of your figures here, you are not misunderstanding it, Councillor Sabah. It doesn't include other revenues and grants and all those things. It includes bulk. You see the word is a bulk. Yeah, bulk revenue. Thanks.
Okay.
The one thing that I continually have a concern about is the aging of our receipts. And I've raised this again, and it's another pet issue of mine, and I know that back in the day, our previous financial, Chief Financial Officer Jacques Carsten, when I chatted to him, and Sutu will agree with me, and if Evita was present, she would also agree that I've raised it back then, is that we collect money on a monthly basis, but that money that we collect on a monthly basis is not necessarily payment against the invoices of the previous month. But yet we seem to be aging it along those lines, because we might, for instance, receive payment in June, but it actually relates to an invoice that was billed in the February. So I'm still of the view that we're not aging our receipts correctly, which means it's skewing our actual collection rate. So the one thing I'm thinking that maybe would assist us to better understand our debtors and why we sit with the problems we sit with, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to get a report along these lines, is that if we can say, this is outstanding debt that we know is going to be collected, and of that amount, this is what is the disputed amount that is currently being disputed and investigated. So we can break down the debtor's book so that we know what is being disputed and is a potential write-off, because we may have to make amendments there or make a provision against that disputed amount. So we can break down the debtor's book and have a better understanding of what is billed in terms of correct billings and what could be billed as in disputed billings. And I'm sure that is a report that we could generate quite easily, because we've got the tools to do so. It would give me more comfort, because my concern is that over a period of time, our debtors book has escalated and escalated and escalated, and it's not really, we're not arresting it, we're not addressing it. And I know that we've had challenges in other areas, particularly around the business sector. But my concern is particularly with this report now, where it breaks it down per ward. There's a clear indication that in a number of wards, amounts billed are not being paid for, and that problem is perpetuating month after month after month, and we're not addressing it. So if it's perpetuating month after month, there must be a dispute that has been lodged against an account, because if a dispute hasn't been lodged, we could have then implemented our collection our policy, our credit control policies. Because if you dispute an account, then you've got to address that first before you can implement. But if you dispute, you've got to pay 30% of the amount that you're disputing, and then the balance will be paid. I think that's what the policy says. So I can't wrap my head around the fact that our debtors book is escalating every single month over the last 3 or 4 years. Our collection rate seems to be high at 92.5%, but yet you look at the breakdown per ward, and it's quite clear that money is not being collected. So it's not making sense to me. It's probably my own accounting brain, but I think you get what I'm asking for. And I would like to see that additional report come in the next budget statements. If we could have a breakdown in terms of the debtors of what has been billed in terms of the total amount owing, but what of that amount is disputed, which means we're currently investigating, and there is a possibility that we maybe need to amend those reports and so on. If we can break down the total amount of disputed, what has been disputed. I mean, I know there's a number of counts in Ward 9 where they've disputed certain amounts, and it's taken time to address it. So, you know, because it takes time to address, those amounts will sit for a period of time. But are we implementing that process whereby if you dispute it, you still have to pay 30% of the disputed amount until such time as the dispute has been resolved? And I think that we need to be a little bit more firm on our processes and our controls and implementing of our policies, because if we continue along these lines, this municipality is going to end up insolvent, and we can't provide services if we're not collecting money. We can't provide services if we're not spending our grant funding that has been made available. So this whole report is triggering alarm bells for me, which is for me becoming a bit problematic. So sorry to be long-winded about it, but it's just, if we could have that report that I referred to earlier, it would help me in terms of understanding, and I think it would give a better indication to councillors in terms of what the true issues are. Thank you.
Evo, you want to respond?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. I think from the answer of disputes, we can give you the amount of disputes and what a proportion of amounts it disputes. It's an easy exercise. But in the issue of saying align the debt to a payment, it's not that easy. Reason for that and why our policy reads for that is to make sure that we protect our revenue and our money. Our policy prescribes that if you make a payment, it goes to your older debt first to prevent prescription and all other issues. So that is why we cannot link it what you are requesting, Councillor Sabah, to say that if you pay for the next month. You will only do that, or will only be able to do that if you are up to date, if you are paying your accounts every month without any problems. If you have got problems and you are not paying your account, we're not going to take your amount for this month and put it for next month's, previous month's account. We're going to take your amount and we're going to put it at the beginning of your debt when you didn't pay. We started there. So that debt can disappear. This one can stay fresh. So I'm just raising the issues because of the issue of prescription. If you leave that one to not pay off, it means we must write it automatically off. It means it becomes prescribed. So we are not following that process of making sure that we pay you now. If you got a 1,000, supposed to pay 1,000 for 5 months, you are not paying, and you pay 1,000 in 6 months. We're going to take that 1,000, take it off from the first month that you didn't pay. Then you also 4 months. So that is how it works. So it's not that easy as you are. I'm just making an example to be able to link it to the previous month. We link it to your older debt exactly because we want to protect the revenue of the municipality. So I just wanted to raise it in terms of our policy. In terms of the 30%, we are enforcing it. I said we are going to bring a report. You remember when we talk about it, we have enforced it now to our people. They are starting to pay where we are seeing. We are enforcing. If you have a dispute, you pay 30%. We allow your dispute to go on. If you don't pay, we take you now to court. We hand you over. We switch you off. So that is our policy. We first start with talking to you, sending you letters. After that, we switching off. After switching off, we hand you over to our attorneys, and after that, we take you to court. So that is a process that we have followed. Our revenue committee, maybe to just add to give you comfort on it, our revenue committee has been sitting for, it's the second time that is, this morning when I came late, Councillor, sorry, Chair, for coming late, I was closing off on the revenue steering committee. And exactly what you are talking now, we have discussed those kind of processes, analyzing. Is the debt collection working from the lawyers? Is our processes work? And you know there's lots of complaints, input that we get from a different, we are putting those in the revenue committee to be able to draft. So next time you will find issues that have been drafted by not only finance, but by the people that serves on the revenue committee, because it serves all the user departments also, infrastructure, community services, planning, all of them are under the revenue committee. So they must encourage how do they do enforcement to make sure that we enforce where people are breaching some stuff, and how does they make sure that service delivery is there, so to encourage payment for revenue. So all those discussions, we're having them in the revenue committee. So I just wanted to raise, to give you the assurance of what we are doing as a revenue section. Thanks.
I'm sorry, but I just remembered, if I may please just ask that and then I'm done.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. I was just thinking about the debtors and the amounts that were owed to the municipality. And some time ago, there was an amount that was sitting, it was around 1.8 million. I think it was 1,804,000, and it was to do with scarce skills allowances that were paid to about 5 or 6 different staff members. I think it racked up some interest, and it became in excess of 2 million. I can't recall what has come of that, and is that amount still sitting in our books in terms of due and payable, and what are we doing about it? Because that is money that needs to come back to the municipality, from what I understand, if I recall. So how have we addressed that, and where is it shown in our financials? Is it included in the debtors book itself there? And because though some of them are, I think, still staff members, others are not. And what are we doing to recover that money, if I may ask? Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor, again for your question. It's in the debtors book. We have handed the matter over to our attorneys. It is dealt at that level still. Thanks.
Councillor Kemba.
That is supposed to come to impact. Council resolved that impact has to investigate it. So maybe we can, hopefully it'll get to impact as soon as possible.
Thank you, councillors. Committee members, do you have questions? Are you finished? Are you sorted? So we are finished with this item. Let's move to the supplementary agenda. Item 6.5, Auditor General Report. Yes, on the supplementary. Can we note, oh, Councillor Campbell?
Chair, yes, I'd like us to note it, and I'm relieved to see that Knysna is not one of the baddies who are mentioned in the Western Cape.
Yay! Okay. Yes.
I think it's appropriate to say that we are sitting with a head of our finance department in the, steered by Mr. Clifford Julies. I am extremely impressed with him, and I have to say that a lot of the reasons why we are kind of like out of the woods is as a result of him, and I would like to commend him for his commitment and his dedication and his roles that he's taken in terms of leading the finance department and achieving the results that we have under his leadership. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sabah. Don't thank my CFO alone. Thank his team also.
We appointed him.
Yes, thank you, CFO. You and the team for your hard work, Monay and all the others who joined them. Let's move to item 6.6. Page 223 on the supplementary, the disposal and movable assets. Councillor Campbell.
Yeah, Chair, I just want to express my regret that we have not amended our policy, that we can rather sell this house, which is in a residential suburb, through estate agents, where I think we will give far more people an opportunity to be able to buy it. But be it as it may, I ask that we go with the recommendation, except that we add E, that following the auction, the approval of council must be obtained before the highest offer may be accepted. It's maybe the administration can word it more elegantly, but that's what we also did with the other auction items. And then we asked yesterday, and I ask again today, could we please be given councillors the contract with the auctioneer so that we can familiarize ourselves with the conditions. Thank you.
Councillor Cleo.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning to the committee. Good morning to all. I note that this item is with the focus of the auction of Earth 353, but there is also mention in this around the auction of the Karatra and the Renendal auction that took place. In our council meeting, there was a resolution that a item be sent to the special section 80 around the information around the Karatra auction. I see that that information has not come. I need clarity, please, around if that will still come or if we're taking that to council, and if this item is only purely around the new edition of auction that's been added. Thank you.
Councillor Sabah.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to raise the question around the property that Councillor Vansant has raised. Thank you, Councillor Vansant, for being with us today to address this. I recall in the meeting that there were questions asked about this, that there was an offer made on the property some time ago, that the lease agreement had expired, that the person on the property or the lessee had approached the municipality to extend the lease and deal with it, and that hasn't done. And if my memory serves me correctly, The MM agreed that we needed to go back and have a look at it and to see whether or not an offer of purchase had been submitted and what had come of that back in the day. So I do think that that needs to be addressed, and this is not included in the report, and I think we need to address those concerns. But what perturbs me is that how did it come to be that properties removed from the auction list when a council resolution was not taken to rescind that decision? Who took the decision? Who was responsible for removing them from the auction list, and why did it not proceed? And what is going to be done with regard to that? Because I do believe that there was no, from an administration point of view, there was no, a decision was taken by a council. There was a council resolution. So who decided to make a decision that was contradictory to a council resolution to remove those two properties? And how are we addressing it? And is there going to be consequence management with regard to that? I can see that, I know that we agreed that IRF 3534 would be removed because we had the problem with regard to the dispute that's arisen around the lease or the property on the Knysna Mall, and we said that we needed to maintain properties that could be used for office rental, and that's why we removed the flats. I think that was IRF 3534. But why IRF 2463 was removed? Who took that decision? And I see it's proceeding now in September only. But, I mean, if it had been sold now, we could have realized the monies and we could have received it, and we've lost interest now in terms of that. So it impacts on service delivery and so on, and who was responsible for that decision, and like I said, is consequence management going to be taken into account? Thank you.
Councillor Chokola.
Chair, thank you very much. Chair, I think I've raised my disappointment yesterday with regards to the item that actually came from the committee, MACO, and then ultimately to the council. But what I want to find out, Chairperson, is I was not in the meeting, but the MM in the council meeting actually advised that if council decides to take off some properties on that auction list, there will be, and I think that scared most of the councillors there in the meeting. There will be, he first said fruitless and wasteful expenditure, and then when he reiterated, he spoke to irregular expenditure. So I would like to understand that, how are we going to have irregular expenditure? Whereas if you look at the item, for an example, this one, it says that the revenue to be generated by the municipality will be net of the auctioneer's commission of 5%. So I would have understood if there was already an amount set to be paid for the auctioneers. So what this means actually is that the auctioneers are paid a certain percentage of the work that they've done. So if you add on what they were supposed to auction or reduce, they'll get 5. It's a percentage of that. So I want to understand as to how were we going to have irregular or fruitless and wasteful expenditure, if that is the case.
Director Corporate.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'll start with Councillor Cleone. She has been patiently waiting for her responses. Maybe to just get some clarity, there's going to be follow-up items on the IRF number 150 of Karatra, as well as IRF 535 Renendal. They will be tabled to a special Section 80 committee meeting for the governance component of the Finance and Governance Committee, so that you just understand that you were not part of that meeting when that decision, when that recommendation was made. So I understand that you might not know that, but that is busy being looked into because there are some issues in particular with the Renendal property that we are looking at, and then just some queries that I had in respect of the process that preceded the Karatara situation. So those reports are being drafted and we will be tabling that. Then in respect of the question from Councillor Sabach in respect of, the words being used is removal of the properties. I just want to point out that the decision was made by Council already in December 2023. From December 2023, nothing happened in terms of that Council resolution for the entire 2024, and only in June 2024 was there an auction. An item was drafted for Council, which was anticipated to have been tabled to Council at a special meeting at the end of April, which preceded the auction date. And the previous speaker did not want to accept that item onto the Council agenda, exactly because the administration did want to submit to Council the request for the removal of those properties. But it isn't to say that it was just not exercising Council's decision. It can be, the decision could have been exercised at any time, as the whole gap of 1.5 years shows, between when the decision was first made and when the decision was executed on. So it isn't that the administration did not want to execute and wasn't going to execute without Council's say-so. Hence the tabling indeed of items to ask for Council's permission to do that. It is sad that we didn't get to table the items in time for those decisions to have been made. I want to point out in respect of the Karatara and Renendal Irvin, the issues that were brought to the administration's attention was only as a result of the advertisement of the auction. It isn't issues that was there prior to the auction advertisement. In fact, that is what alerted people to the realities that they are, in the case of Karatara, potentially that there was something in the public participation process that perhaps wasn't done correctly, and in terms of the Renendal property, that there was in fact another sales agreement that was undertaken between the municipality and another person. Those two realities could have an impact and could have had an impact on the auction. It became apparent prior to the auction, and we were just informed that the auction should continue irrespective of those issues that had been already highlighted prior to the auction. So these were, the last two items were things completely out of the administration's control, and irrespective of when the auctions would have been tabled, would only have arisen the moment that the auctions were advertised, as it did in these circumstances. So there was I don't believe that there was a deliberate act on the part of the administration to just disregard the council resolution of 12 December. In fact, there is evidence documented that shows that the administration followed the correct procedures in approaching Council first in respect of those properties, and Council did now exercise their prerogative in terms of the properties that were requested to be removed from the auction. Thank you.
CFO?
Thanks, Chairperson. I think Director Kopraso responded to the questions that he needed to respond to. In terms of us, if you see, we brought the item here, and then we indicate to say that we will continue as per the council's resolution that was previously there. And on what the MMF said in a council meeting previously around the irregular expenditure, MMF was probably meant to say, or maybe Councillor Chokolo wanted to say fruitless and wasteful expenditure. I'm still saying that, as a CFO now, I'm saying what the MMF said. It will definitely result into fruitless and wasteful expenditure. The reason for that is because there was a price set for the auction, and then the auction have done their duty and they have received even more than the price that was set for the auction. So it means if you now you have received what you're supposed to receive, what the target was, and now you are cancelling it, you are taking it out. It means the money that you will pay to the auction will be in vain. So that's why we are referring to, when the MM was referring to the fruitless and the wasteful expenditure. I just wanted to highlight it. Thanks.
Councillor Campbell.
Chair, I'm still going with my recommendation, but if we get the report that the Director Corporate is talking about, councillors will have to be provided with the contract with the auctioneer so that we can for ourselves satisfy ourselves whether there would be fruitless and wasteful expenditure or irregular. Thank you, Chair. So I'm repeating my proposal because all these other discussions do not actually relate to the item before us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Campbell. So you want the contract to be added with the special section 80 corporate?
Yes, but my main thing here, exactly, but is that following this auction, the approval of council has to be obtained before the highest offer can be accepted, as was the case with the previous auctions. Thanks.
Okay. Amen.
As I said yesterday, Chair, we will need to take a legal advice on the matter.
Councillor Cleon.
Thank you, Chairperson, for my follow-up. Thank you for the answers and the feedback. So in conclusion, I do take that a special item will still come to us with regards to the auction of Karatra and Renendal properties. So I look forward to that date. And I do agree with the recommendation. I mean, we have a council resolution that we want to stick behind from 2023, yet properties were removed from that, and the administration around the time frame of the auction, there was Section 80s that alluded to we wanted properties removed off that auction. So there was a lot of back and forth and a lot of uncertainty, and there was a lot of pleas, like the community, the petition, the Section 80 recommendations, all those that were not followed, but yet the auction still went ahead. So I do welcome the item, and I wait for that item and agree with the recommendation, because if the auction went ahead and a property was successfully sold, then the purpose of that auction is not fruitless and wasteful. The outcomes of the other two properties, such as Karatra and Renendal, are still to be determined. So I look forward to the information on that item. Thank you.
Councillor Campbell.
I just want to get clarification from the on what is he wanting to obtain legal advice.
Chairperson, there is a contract. There is a contract that is in existence. There is a contract. So on the basis that the municipality is acting is on the basis of a contract. When councillors want to perform an administrative function, because what Councillor Campbell is saying is that we must bring a contract here. No, it's wrong. It's wrong, Chairperson. It is really very, very, very much wrong, because it means now council is doing an administrative function. Really, it's doing an administrative function. It's doing an administrative function. And it is wrong. It's interference in the administrative, because there's an existing contract in place, which must be respected. Once council plays into the administration space, then it becomes a very serious problem. And Chairperson, we cannot allow that and keep quiet when we see an encroachment into the administrative space. Because it means now you are playing into that. It's no longer an oversight function. That is why I'm saying we will have to take a legal advice on that. We'll have to take a legal advice. There's nothing wrong with taking legal advice on a matter.
Councillor Campbell.
Chair, councillors are not interfering in the administration. We are here to fulfill oversight. We do not want to change the contract. We want to satisfy ourselves with the provisions of the contract, because we are being told by the administration that if we make a certain decision, that's going to lead to fruitless and wasteful expenditure. So we want to have a look at the contract to see what the provisions are. It has purely to do with oversight. And I really want to caution the with respect that if he goes and obtains legal advice on whether councillors are allowed to see a contract before they agree to accept a purchase price, I would respectfully submit that's going to be fruitless and wasteful expenditures. How on earth can we as councillors be expected to make a decision to accept a price for an auction or to reject it without being given the advantage of having access to the contract. We don't want to change the contract. We don't want to interfere with it. We just want to see the clauses of it. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Sabah and then the MM.
Chair, my understanding is that if the properties go on auction and the amount received was above the reserve price and that council does not proceed to sell the property on the auction, the commission to the auctioneer is still payable, which I think was 5%. And I think it's to that the CFO and the MM are referring to would be then wasteful and fruitful expenditure, because we have to incur the commission payable to the auctioneer because we as council have decided to withdraw the property, albeit that we've reached the reserve price and more. That's my understanding. Just if I could have clarity there, am I correct in my understanding? Then I just wanted to get it also, I'm trying to understand the item, the pages here, it's page 226. 225 and 226, we had a council resolution that was taken on the 17th of December 2023, where we said that we would proceed to auction on the property. Then on the 7th of April 2025, we had a proposal made by Councillor White, seconded by Councillor Campbell. The vote took place, and the votes in favour of that recommendation was higher than against. Then the second proposal, made by Councillor Lowe, seconded by Councillor Gericke, was in favour and against equal. There was one person that did not vote, but yet it indicates, that Councillor Lowe's proposal carried. But how did it carry if it was 50-50? It doesn't indicate that Councillor Mark Willemse, it says he did not vote. So it doesn't show that he exercised his casting vote. So I'm a bit unclear about this particular item. It doesn't make sense to me. Is it recorded correctly? Or is there an error in the recording of what happened in that council meeting of the 7th of, or the Finance and Governance on the 7th of April? No, it must have been a council meeting. It's an ordinary council meeting on the 5th of June. It indicates here, and then he has so it doesn't make sense. How is it that Councillor Lowe's proposal carried when it was? Who did? But no, it says here, did not vote. Councillor Mark Willemse.
We're not approving the council minutes now. I think we must deal with it at the council meeting.
But I'm just pointing out the error, and I think we need to look at it. Thank you.
I think administration must go back to the records. I think Councillor Mark Willemse voted with us that day. Yeah, I think that they must just go back to the, he voted with us that day. So I think the administration must just go back to the records. Councillor Chokolo?
Yeah, Chairperson, just on what the first part of what Councillor Sabah was saying as to how she understands this and as to how the auctioneers get to be paid. You see, that's why I'm saying I'm disappointed because at the advice that the MM was giving. Because when we dealt with the matter of removing these items in our previous Section 80, his advice was that it will be your decision as council whether you still want to remove the properties from the auction list or not. He advised in the Section 80. It went to MACO, the recommendations were the same. In council, then now there was another advice that there will be irregular. Why? My issue is that why was that advice not given in the first place? That if council now decides at that time there will be fruitless and wasteful expenditure. So my issue is with the advices that we get at different times. That's my issue. That's why I'm saying I'm disappointed at that. Because if we knew as a committee at the time, that's why we were grappling with it, but we were made to relax because we were going to be able to make a decision in the council meeting. And now in the council meeting, we are told about fruitless and wasteful expenditure. That's my disappointment about the advice that we got throughout this process. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Chokolo. Committee members, no one wants to say something? Emil?
No, Chairperson, I don't want to delve on what Councillor Jogolo is raising, because I was not here when the first matter, but the advice is given on the basis of the item that is there. You know, the then speaker in that meeting, Councillor Jogolo, came with guns blazing, asking who changed the council resolution. We can play the recording. The speaker came with guns blazing to say who has the right to change the council resolution. The speaker, the then speaker, Councillor Skosan, the then Councillor Skosan, came to that meeting blazing. Because we have got to advise on the issue, because that you have got to apportion it. We have got to advise, Councillor Jogolo. It would be been a failure. In fact, the CFO even texted me because he was to catch a flight to say MM raised this issue. Because if it is not raised, council must be made aware of the implication of a decision. This is my advisor, Councillor Jogolo. It's my advisor. It's by law. CFO is my advisor. So if the CFO gives me an advice, I've got to raise that particular advice, Councillor Jogolo. If I fail to do that, it means it's a dereliction of duty on my part. And the CFO has repeated it here in this particular meeting. So it's a role that we have got to play. Because if we fail to advise council properly and council takes a decision, it's upon us. It must be clear on a particular decision what advice did we give. And we must never fail to fulfill that responsibility. It's a responsibility that is high, that you must be able to say, I gave this particular advice, and then council went ahead, despite a caution that has been given.
Speak, Chairperson.
Councillor Chokolo.
No. What I'm saying, my issue here is that when we dealt with this in the Section 80, that advice that you gave in council never came up. We were never told about irregular or fruitless and wasteful expenditure. You came out strong with that advice in the council meeting, and unfortunately I was not here. That's when you advised council. But in the Section 80, because this thing came in the Section 80, and we were grappling with it in the Section 80. But your advice was not the same as that one you gave in the meeting. That's what I'm saying. You came out strongly in the meeting. And I think that's what scared everyone, the thing about fruitless and wasteful expenditure in the council meeting. Of which what I'm saying is that if we got that advice from the start in the Section 80, we would have known, we would have not relaxed and said we will remove these properties when we are in council meeting, because we were made to believe that we've got powers, we can do that without having repercussions of the fruitless and wasteful expenditure. That's my point, Chair. Thanks.
Can we go with it as amended by me, please?
Okay, CFO.
Thank you, Chair. I don't want to go against Councillor Susan here, but just maybe on Councillor Chokolo's view in defense of the MM's advice. I think at the time the advice was given around council decision to be able, because that's what the resolution was saying, to say the council must be the ultimate one to be able to make the decision to accept the price of the auction or not. I think that's where it comes from. Because the time that advice was given, the auction was not yet concluded, it was not yet finished, where the give you the advice. But now the auction have completed in the council, when the ordinary council was held. So there we had now figures, we had amounts, we had decisions to be made. And their decisions is the implication why the MMF now advised to say that it could be fruitless. Because that other decision where you've got the right is to say when we go under the reserve price, that's the basis of where the MM came with the advice. If you go under the reserve price, you still got a decision to accept it or not to accept it and what. But now we are above the reserve price, so it means that that is what our indicator was. So now the issue is to say that if you have received what you have even more on than what you have bargained for, can you or will you be able to, what will be the implication of that thing? That's what the advice was just. I just wanted to give you that indication. Thanks.
Thank you, CFO. Committee members, can we move?
Yes, Chair.
What was Councillor Campbell's?
Number one, it's after the auction, it's got to be brought back to council for council to accept the offer, and council must be given a copy of the contract with the auctioneer.
Let's move. So we are finished with our agenda.
Chair,
Yes.
I agree with the recommendation, but I would like to err on the side of caution, and I will not support the fact that the contract needs to come to us. Thank you.
Chairperson, I want it to be recorded.
Yeah.
I want it to be recorded, Chair. I want it to be put on record that I advised this Section 8. It's now an interfere. There's an existing contract, Chair, that must be respected. There's an existing contract, Chairperson, that was entered even before my time. That must be respected. And it is my duty and the Chief Financial Officer to ensure that contracts are respected in this council. It's not for the time that we are conducting an auction. So I would like that recorded as well.
I'm also recording my vote against the
Chair,
contract part.
Chair, can I just please place on record, I do not want to change the contract. I want to see the contract. And we will see the contract. Councillors are entitled to see it. And the reason I want to see the contract is so that I can see what the contract terms are. Whether, if we don't accept the price, there is going to be fruitless and wasteful expenditure. I don't want to change the contract. I don't know whether I should say this in 11 different languages, which I can't. I just want to see the contract so that I can satisfy myself what the implications will be if we do not accept the offer. We cannot just rely on the advice of the administration. We as councillors have to satisfy ourselves. So, thank you, Chair. If this committee doesn't ask for it, I will get it through other means.
Are you?
No, Chair. It's unfortunate we can't get. And the MM even said he will need to take legal advice on this. But as a committee now, we are not in a position to have legal advice in the meeting. Look, I also have difficulty with that because in the committee we've had lease agreements serving they were signed and we never changed them. But they come to council just for council to note and look at them. So, Chair, that's why I don't have a problem with that contract coming to us. There's nothing that we can do. It's just for us to see. We've seen a lot of contracts and lease agreements in the Section 80s, and we've never changed them. So, I don't think it's. I want to change that, but it's just if it's signed, it's there. Just for council to note it. I don't have a problem with that, Chair. Thanks.
Can we vote on that then?
It was 2 and then 2 abstentions. We and Councillor Sabah are not going for that.
Abstaining, so that means the resolution passes. Well, that's 1 against 2 then.
But Chairperson, you voted against.
Yeah, I voted against.
You didn't abstain, you voted against.
Okay, well, I'll get it in terms of PAIA if I have to, but I will get it.
Councillor Sabah, don't say that. Councillor Campbell, sorry. Councillors, let's adjourn. Thank you for a wonderful day. It was a nice day. All our meetings ended before 12. It's nice. Okay. See you. Have a nice day.